Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And today we've got a combination of shell and choke that could very well give us the tightest pattern that you can really get out of a turkey shell. These shells have already been very impressive, and we've tested them through a 665 and a 655 so far, and they just keep getting tighter and tighter. So if they work well with today's choke, these results might be slightly ridiculous, to say the least, but it might also go the other way and completely ruin our pattern at the same time. I don't know. We're just gonna have to test it and see. But for the shell I've got out here today, it's one that Jack sent in to us, so big thank you to him for sending some of these shells, because they have seriously been some impressive shells so far. But those shells are some of the Kent TK7 Penetrator shells. They are a 12 gauge, 3-inch, 1 5/8 ounce payload of number 7 shot, going about 1100 feet per second. Now these ones, as you can see, they are the 15 grams per cc of tungsten, which is pretty much like the heavy shot loading. So not the full on TSS, but are definitely hitting harder than lead. So with the way these have been patterned, these have been a ridiculous turkey shell so far. But how are they going to do through today's setup? That's the question. And as for today's setup, I brought out the Remington 1187 here, but I threw in this choke. And it's been a little while since we've seen it on the channel, but this is the Carlson's heavyweight TSS 640 constriction turkey choke. So definitely getting down there into the pretty tight choke range for a 12 gauge with a turkey shell. So I don't know. This might be too tight for those number 7s in that TK7 shell, or with what we've seen previously, this might be just every pellet in that shell inside of a 10-inch circle and be a ridiculous looking pattern. I don't know, but if it works, it's going to look good. I can tell you that right now. But as for the test, everything is the same as usual. The turkey target is at 40 yards, and I have the chronograph, so we'll be able to get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of the target. We'll take the shot, look at the chrono, and then check out our results. I have some decently high hopes for this combination, but I think it's just going to come down to the constriction being that 640. Is it going to work with this number 7 shot? I don't know, but I hope to see some really impressive results. So let's go over here and take this shot and just see what kind of a pattern it gives us. Okay, so that shell gave us 1147 through the chronograph. The boss claims 1100, so yeah, I'd say we're still within the ballpark of where these shells should be at. 1147, definitely not too fast or too slow, so there's nothing too strange to see up here as far as velocity goes. But how does our pattern actually look down there at 40 yards? And was that 640 choke too tight or not? Let's go down and check it out and see what kind of results we actually got. All right, now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, our pattern was a touch low and a touch left. Now, before anything, that is a very good looking pattern. Nice and hot while not being blown completely wide open or anything. So objectively speaking, that is a really good looking turkey pattern. However, in the context of this particular shell, that, believe it or not, might be the worst pattern we've gotten out of it. If you've seen the other couple tests we've done with it, these shells are typically very uniform looking and a little bit tighter than this as well. So I think we hit the constriction limit. At 640, I think it's just a little bit too tight for these shells. Because as you can see, we do have a nice hot core area there, but the second you get outside of that, it definitely starts to get a little bit more splotchy and open up quite a bit more than some of the other tests we've done with these shells. Plus, we definitely start to see a few flyers and stuff around the edges. So I think 640, although it does give you a very good looking turkey pattern, is a little bit too tight for these shells. But either way, for a choke that is showing signs of being too tight for the shell, those TK7s don't really care a whole lot, it seems, about constriction. They're going to give you a good turkey pattern one way or the other. So I do have the Remington 650 choke that we can test, and I think that might be the ticket. But either way, I mean, this is still a great looking turkey pattern, but in the context of these shells, we have seen better. But I mean, if that was centered up, you would have a beyond dead turkey at 40 yards. And still, if you had that pattern at 10, 15, 20 yards, you better be right on them, because you're going to be hitting them with a baseball. But it is definitely a little bit less uniform, a little bit less even, a little bit more splotchy around the edges than the previous tests that we've done with this shell. So I think 640 is a little bit much. So overall, really not a whole lot of complaints about this pattern, but I think we can do better, believe it or not. Okay, and here's that wad that came out of that shell, and it really looks fantastic for going through that tight of a 640 choke. There's no rips or tears in here. It doesn't really look like it caught on anything whatsoever. Nothing stuck down in there, no pinholes or anything. It opened up averagely evenly, if that makes any sense. Definitely nothing weird. So these wads, I forget exactly what their name is off the top of my head, but they are some kind of a low bore contact wad. Clearly do what they're supposed to do, because not a whole lot of wads would look that good coming through that tight of a choke, that's for sure. So nothing too out of the ordinary to see here, except for how good it looks, surprisingly enough. All right, y'all. Well, what do you think about that performance there? Definitely a very good looking turkey pattern overall, but compared to what we've seen previously out of these shells, we can still do better, and we've seen better. I just think 640 with these number 7s is a little bit on the tighter side, because they are starting to show signs of being a little bit over-constricted and not quite as even as what we had seen previously. But either way, I can tell you for sure that these shells don't mind a tight constriction choke whatsoever. So I think we should put that 650 Remington choke I've got in there and test these and see what we can get, because that 650 constriction might be the ticket to where these really give you the tightest pattern possible. And I mean, these shells have shown us some results that might even be too tight for some people. So they're definitely very impressive either way. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these 12 gauge TK7 shells, and what results have you gotten out of them? And maybe what other chokes might you want to see these through, or what other constrictions might you want to see them through? Let me know all that down in the comments. But as for today, still a great looking turkey pattern, don't get me wrong, but I think we kind of surpassed what these shells are actually capable of, and we need to back it off just a little bit in the constriction. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.